When I stare at a movie poster, it's almost like a Rorschach test. Now, these aren't actual film posters from the studios. No, these are posters that were created as fan art. But if you've seen the films, you know that the colors, shapes, and patterns evoke the moods, the ideas, the characters, and the themes found within the films. Remember, each frame of a film is a still image, like a picture or a painting, if you will, that's collectively turned into a movie. These frames of film, these still images, these celluloid paintings, and the act of editing them together to illustrate movement, both control how a story is told, and just as the author controls the words, syntax, and paragraphs of a novel, the filmmaker controls the frame, scene, and sequence for a movie. And that's what we're going to explore in this lecture. A visual grammar has been developing for the last 100 years. A visual grammar that we consume by watching television shows, advertisements, and films all of our lives. Not all of us recognize this grammar, but that doesn't mean that it's not there, inside of us, subconsciously. I mean, think about it. In 2017, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimated that Americans spend less than 20 minutes a day reading. 20 minutes a day. Compare that to more than 2 hours per day watching TV and movies. Played out over time, that means that a typical American adult, over a 4-year period, would have read for nearly 500 hours, or 21 straight days of reading, compared to 3,000 hours or 125 straight days, or more than 4 straight months of visual storytelling. Writers, directors, cinematographers, editors, they understand this visual grammar, just as a poet, journalist, playwright, or author understands literary composition. As an introduction to this emerging form of visual communication, let's take a moment to recognize the great visual storytellers and their techniques. First, we'll outline the basics of visual literacy, and then we'll take a deeper dive into 2 aspects, color and shape, and by exploring 2 Academy Award-winning films as examples of how the filmmakers have crafted not only visual literacy, but visual literature. On the most fundamental level, visual literacy is based upon at least 4 central factors: color, space, line, and shapes. And to explore these ideas, let's look at film as we might study a painting, a 2-dimensional rectangle hanging on the wall, one that we stare at, one that we contemplate. We become absorbed by Dali, Renoir, Vermeer. Better yet, a film is more like a museum, with each image side by side with the next. And if we think about it like that, then through comparison, we should be able to see that a wide shot allows us to see our character in context with his or her surroundings, as opposed to a close-up, where our attention is focused on the emotions and possibly even the thoughts of the character, versus a medium shot, more neutral, less invasive. Perhaps these are the nouns in our lexicon: wide shot, medium shot, close-up. If so, then maybe camera moves are equivalent to verbs: a tracking shot, dolly, zoom, a jib shot, a pan. These are ideas that a visual storyteller will master early in their career. Now, we may not think about the difference between a pan shot, where the camera swivels left to right on a tripod, and a dolly shot, where the camera itself moves left to right. But it feels different to the audience, and the director, a good director, knows this. To be specific, a pan, where the camera swivels on the tripod, that's sort of similar to your head swiveling on your shoulders. You inherently feel as if you're watching something as an observer, sitting on the sidelines, head swiveling as if you're watching a tennis match. But a dolly is different. With a dolly shot, the camera moves, and it feels as if we're moving with it, walking left to move alongside of a character, or dollying forward to get closer to the action, rather than zooming in to get closer, which feels more artificial, kind of like you're spying from a distance. Noun, verb, or noun, verb, noun. The boy sees the girl. Close up, boy. Pan to, wide shot, girl. Or girl approaches boy. Medium shot, girl. Reverse shot, wide on boy, dolly in to a close-up of the boy as the girl steps into frame, with the camera now over the girl's shoulder looking down on the boy. This is also known as OTS, over the shoulder, a high-angle shot OTS. So, shots and the way that we cut them together form sequences or sentences that communicate ideas to the audience, ideas that don't need words. Directors and cinematographers use constructs such as the rule of thirds, the golden ratio, and point of interest. They use them not only to create visually pleasant images, but also to guide the audience's eye to better tell their story. A master of the craft was the Italian director Michelangelo Antonioni. I particularly like his 1966 film Blow Up. Antonioni and his cinematographer Carlo De Palma knew that the arrangement of color, light, line, and shape could be used with precision to draw the eye and draw the audience's attention with specific intention within the frame. I'd like to start by looking at some images from that classic Antonioni film, Blow Up. It won the Grand Prix de Festival, known as the Palme d'Or, at the Cannes Film Festival in 1967. From these examples, you'll be able to see that visual balance and patterns are key to telling the story and making the audience feel a certain way about its characters. As the story is being crafted, the director must work with the cinematographer, with location scouts, with set and costume designers, and the actors, not only to bring the words to life, but to take the story to a higher level. Actors and locations assume general shapes in the audience's mind, and these shapes can have metaphorical resonance with the audience. Virtual and actual lines are frequently used by great directors to focus the audience's attention on key moments of the story. Just as the comparison and contrast of colors are also used to connect the audience emotionally to the film's most important themes. Of course, Steven Spielberg, because he's Steven Spielberg, and he's an expert at this. Steven Spielberg has been quite an expert on this for quite a while. He's a great director to watch. Let me just walk you through the first few shots of his 1975 classic, Jaws. As the opening credits wind down, Spielberg and his cinematographer Bill Butler start a long tracking shot, left to right, through a beach party. It's night, and the partygoers are lit in this warm orange glow from the fire. They're playing music, they're smoking, they're drinking, they're telling stories, having a good time. And the dolly shot stops on a medium shot of this shaggy-haired guy staring off screen. The shot holds on the guy. And then it cuts to another medium shot. This one, a long-haired girl staring back. She smiles. Reverse shot. He smiles. And then the scene cuts to a wide shot. We can see the entire party, the golden fire bathing everyone in a warm light against this cold blue of the ocean and the night that surrounds them. In the wide shot, the boy walks over to the girl and they begin to talk, although we can't hear what they're saying. Seconds later, she runs off into the cool blue night and he runs after her. So what's going on here? We have no dialogue to inform us. It's the start of the movie, so we don't know the characters, and yet we know. Yeah, we know. We know what these teenagers are doing, right? We know she's not running away from him. She didn't just remember that she left the oven on. We know through visual storytelling that these two want to be alone, romantically alone, on the beach, together. We understand this. We understand this through the shots that Spielberg and Butler use. Yes, and we also know this through contrast and affinity. This idea, contrast and affinity. Affinity, things are similar. Contrast, things that are different. Now, I've already described a good deal of the scene, and already you can notice affinity between the boy and the girl. Both are bathed in warm light, both have long hair, both are shot in medium shots, so already they're very similar in our minds. And then we're going to add two other elements, color and shape. Color. Both characters are blonde, and both characters are white, wearing a blue or a black top. So there's this affinity of color between the characters. And on top of all this, and this is going to sound a little bit strange, but on top of all this, they both have triangular heads. That's right. They both have triangular heads. They both have long hair and it feathers out because this is the 70s. And it gives their heads this triangular shape. I know that sounds strange, and I know that you're thinking that this is probably where film theory gets in the way of enjoying a good movie. Because no one, and you mean no one, thinks about the shape of a character's head when they're directing a scene, or when they're casting a movie.